Hello everyone, and welcome to another PsychoPy3 tutorial brought to you by Words in the World. In this video, I'm going to be showing you a new resource that I've been working on developing, which is the WoW experiment templates. Now, I know from my own personal experience that creating an experiment from scratch using a new software can be a little intimidating. So, to try and help people who are new with using PsychoPy3, I thought it'd be useful to develop a couple of templates for typical psycholinguistic experiments. So what these provide is a kind of skeleton, or the basic functionality required to run a particular experiment, that you can then add on to and kind of flesh out to meet the needs of whatever experiment you want to run. So in this video, I'll go over two things. Firstly, how to access these templates, and then how to use them. So accessing them is quite straightforward. They're searchable on the Pavlovia Open Science platform, and they're all hosted on the same GitLab repository, and that's this one here, the Words in the World profile. So I'll make sure that these links are provided in the description of the video below. When it comes to using these, I mostly encourage you to download the experiment and then kind of pick through it, look at all the different code. I've tried to comment all of it as much as I can, so it's kind of transparent and easy to understand. But that's really going to be a useful learning experience, is to actually looking at these experiments and seeing how they work for yourself. All right, so let's go over to Pavlovia. And do I have it here? I do. And let's see how we can search for these. So I'm just going to log out of my account just to show you that you don't actually need an account to access these things. So here I'm on the Explore tab on the Pavlovia website. When you load, it should come up to this. You can go up to Explore. Now I can search for the templates here. So I can do that relatively easily by just typing template, and you'll see that they appear here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. They're all under the created by the Words in the World group. The other way I can do it is if I search for path, then I can just search for words in the world. So words _in_the _world. I can search this way. You can see only these templates will come up. Now, at the moment, I'm not able to run these and actually preview them, but that's hopefully something that we'll fix in the, or that we'll kind of set up in the near future to allow you to actually see what these look like. But for now, all we'll have to do is download them and then re-upload them to our own Pavlovia account, and then we'll be able to run them that way. So to download these templates, all you have to do is click on the one that you want and then go to View Code. So this is going to bring us over to the Words in the World GitLab repository. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have clicked that. If I just go to the main page, this is the one that's provided in the link, you can see that all of the templates are also available here. So I'll just go back over to the self-paced reading one. So this is the one that I'll be working with today. I'll be creating my own self-paced reading experiment based on this template. So if I were to log in to my account, I'd have another option. I could fork this over directly to that repository. That presents a few other challenges that I wouldn't necessarily recommend when you're starting out. I think the way I'm going to show in this video is a little bit easier. So I'm just going to directly download this repository. So I'm going to click on the download icon here and just download a zip folder. And I'll just copy this over to my desktop where the other where I'm going to be creating my experiment. So that's it. I've downloaded the template, and now I'll no longer need this. All right, so I've got my template here. I'm just going to extract all the files. Beautiful. Just delete that. All right, so now I've got this template self-paced reading master here. So if I open this up, I can now see all of the necessary files that I need to run this experiment. So I've got some stimulus files, practice, I've got the HTML, all of that. Now actually, for my purposes, all I need is the experiment file, but I'm going to want to look at these stimulus files because they're going to provide me with some useful information. So I'm just going to copy this, and let's just quickly have a look at the stimulus file. And so I'll just see that I just want to make a note of the important parameters. In this case, sentence ID isn't actually important, but having a target for my target stimuli is going to be important, and I'll need a correct column if I want to have a grammaticality judgment task. Okay, so that's that. I can just leave this up here. Now I'm going to create a new folder where I'm going to store my experiment. And I'm just going to call it self-paced. Okay, and as you can see, I already have my own stimuli that I want to use for this experiment. So I'm going to put all of my files into this folder here, and then from here I'm going to open it up. So if one thing I can talk about just briefly while PsychoPy3 opens is that one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't host experiments within a folder that has a sorry, how should I say this? When you're creating your folders for your experiment, you don't want to nest other experiment folders within other experiments. The reason for that is that that can really mess with how Git will read the files in your folder. So just when you're starting out, it's important to make sure you keep things organized. I mean, I do this by just having all of my experiments on the desktop. It's because I kind of access them rather regularly. But creating another, perhaps like a projects folder, and making sure that all of your experiments are in that folder on the same level, and that they're not nested within each other is important. All right, so my experiment's loaded. So if I hadn't seen this before, I would take some time to actually go through and look at the different routines, open up the code components, have a look. I've tried to comment the code as much as possible to try and figure out how it works. I won't do that in this video, however. All I want to do is make sure that, oh, I forgot, I actually need, I'm going to need this practice stimuli. I didn't create my own practice stimuli. All right. So I'll just use those for now. So I want to make sure, okay, so now I've got it open. I've looked through it. I understand roughly how everything works, more or less. Now I want to make sure of a couple things. So I'm going to double check to make sure that I'm logged into my own Pavlovia account. That's up here. So if you don't have an account, it's really simple to register. You just fill out these fields. It will send you an email. You confirm. It's very straightforward. I'm just going to log into my own account here. Okay. All right, so now I'm signed in. Next thing I'm going to do is make sure I set the local root. So that's basically just selecting the folder on your computer where everything is stored and where this experiment file will be stored itself. So I'm going to select that self-paced folder that I created on the desktop. So that's looking good. The next thing I want to do is make sure that all the names are correct. This is pretty important. So you want to have the folder name, the experiment name, and then the project name that you create on Pavlovia to all have the same name. So I'm going to change this because this is already set to template, to the template name. I'm going to save this as self-paced, and I'll save that. And I'm going to save this again. And actually what I want to do is I'm going to exit out of this, make sure that, and I'm going to change the name of this experiment file as well to self-paced. Okay, I'm going to open this up again. So here, I'm going to make sure that this is closed. There we go. Okay, so now I've got an experiment called self-paced. In that folder, self-paced. And I'll go ahead and update the stimulus files. So now that my local root is set to self-paced, it should bring me directly into this one. So I'm going to upload new stim A. just a quick note. So this is counterbalancing between two different versions of the experiment. So for my purposes, I've got version A and version B. So I'll upload my stimulus that way. Okay. Now I'm going to press the sync button. Well, I can do this manually too. Right now, my preferences in Pavlovia are set so that when I click the sync button, it's going to automatically create all the HTML for the experiment. But I'll just do that myself by going to the File tab and clicking Export HTML. And this should then take what's written here in PsychoPy and write it as a JavaScript and HTML file. There we go. So if I'm in my self-paced folder, I can then see this HTML file folder has appeared, and I can see all the JavaScript code that's been written. This would be the HTML, and here I've got my resources that are all stored in there. That's great. Now I'm going to create my project on Pavlovia. So remember, I'm logged in. Oh, never mind. I exited from the program, so it logged me out. So I'm going to make sure I'm logged in. Looks good. And I'm going to click the sync button. So this will attempt to sync this experiment with an existing repository on my account, but because nothing exists at the moment, it's going to prompt me to create a new project. And so I'm going to name the project again, the same as everything else, so self-paced. I'm going to select myself as the owner, and I'm going to keep this private because let's imagine that my ethics clearance doesn't allow me to make things public in this way. All right. Yeah, that's fine. I don't need a description. And I'll create the project. Okay. I'm just going to say, for my first commit, I created experiment from template. All right. And just close down a couple of these things. Okay. So now that experiment should have been created on my Pavlovia account. So let's go back to Pavlovia. I'll sign in. There we go. And now, somewhere in my long list of experiments, I should have something called self-paced. There we go. So I'll click on this. And I'm going to switch over to piloting so I can pilot it. I'll click the pilot button. And there we go. So now this experiment is running. So we can actually see what it looks like now. Again, hopefully we'll have features so that you can actually pilot it before downloading it yourself. But now I can actually see what's happening with all this, all the code in the experiment. So I've got my welcome screen, I've got some instructions. It's just reminding me that I should press space for each of the words that I read. Press space to begin. And here I'm seeing my practice stimuli. I've got this grammaticality check. I've got a rating task, and so on and so on. And looks like here I've got, and here looks like I've got an issue. So actually, one thing that I forgot to do is I forgot to make sure that all of the parameters in my stimulus files matched what I needed for the experiment. So I'll have to go in to do that, to make sure that everything's working. So here you can see I had my target set to target sentence, whereas in the experiment itself it's looking for something called target, and for the correct response it's looking for something called correct. So that's one thing you'll want to make sure that you do when you're uploading your own stimulus files. And hopefully that will kind of jump out at you once you're kind of reading through the experiment itself. You'll come across these kind of parameter names that you can either change in the experiment or that you'll want to alter in your stimulus files itself. All right. All right, so hopefully that whole process didn't look too difficult. So again, if you, thank you for watching, and if you have any requests for experiment templates that you'd like me to construct and then place on the repository, just let me know. If you have any questions about the templates that are already existing there, or if you run into any issues with downloading and then downloading the templates and then creating your own experiments based off of them. I'm always available here to help. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.